Thank you very much, Penelope. It was good to give also this overview about culture roots, because we are speaking a lot about the cultural roots, but well, it's a very complex program and always in progress. I think the roots are all over Europe, and a lot of actors are part of it. Thank you very much. I will give the floor to next tour now. Sandra De Puig will explain to you what is next tour. Some of the regions present in the room, they are already partners or members of next tour. So I'll try to find the presentation. 1 second, please.
Okay, so good afternoon. Thank you, Sorina. I would like to thank you also the European Institute of Cultural Roots for inviting Nextour to participate to the final conference of Certess. Thank you all of you also for sharing all these valuable outcomes and experiences. We will try for sure to disseminate them among Nextour members and for capitalization. So I am Sandra De Puig. I work at Nextour Permanent Secretariat, which is based in Brussels. The idea of my presentation is to explain you what is Nextour. So we have been talking a lot about networks. So I will try to present you how a European regional network works. I would also give you some highlights on funding opportunities for tourism, because it's one of the core actions that we develop within Nextour. And then, as next steps, also to find possible synergies with Certess and Nextour. So what does Nextour mean? Actually, it has two meanings. One of them would be the acronym, the English acronym for Network of European Regions for Sustainable and Competitive Tourism. And on the other side, Nextour also means the next tourism. By next tourism, we mean the tourism of the future, the tourism of tomorrow, which is competitive and which is also sustainable. What does this mean? This means, so sustainable and competitive tourism means a tourism that creates the right balance between the welfare of tourists and the welfare of the local population. Also creates the right balance between the uses of natural resources, of natural and cultural resources by the local population and also by the tourists, and also creates the right balance between the development and the competitiveness of a tourism destination and of its businesses. So Nextour is a network of European regions, so our members are regional authorities competent in tourism, because they are the ones that are able to influence the tourism policies, the regional tourism policies, and lead them towards sustainability. But within the network, we also have associated members that represent the public sector, represent also associations on sustainable tourism, and also research centers and universities. So at the end, Nextour embraces like 3 key goal players of tourism: policymakers, private sector, and the scientific approach. So what do we do? Basically, we work in 3 objectives. So one is to develop a strong framework for regional cooperation at European level. The other, I will explain you further how do we do that. The other one would be to develop research and also to create models on sustainable tourism management, and also to strengthen the role of the regions towards the European Commission and within the European tourism policies. Also to mention, I don't know if I, okay, oh, it's okay. So also to mention that Nextur is a self-finance network. This means that the members, they are committed to contribute yearly by a membership fee. And this means that they are contributed by their own willingness. They are committed by their own willingness to move towards sustainable tourism within Europe. So a little bit of history in general terms of Nextur. Nextur evolution goes very much in hand with the evolution of the European tourism policy. In 2007, there was the publication of the Agenda for a Sustainable and Competitive Tourism, where the European Commission recognizes or stimulates the need to create platforms for good practice exchange on tourism destination management. Is at this occasion where some regions, funding regions of Nextur, established a memorandum of understanding for cooperation. Then in 2009, there is the adoption of the Lisbon Treaty, where it is recognized the European role on tourism, just with very few competences on coordinating and supporting tourism initiatives. And is it at this occasion in 2009 where Nextur is created as a non-profit organization under the Belgian law. In 2010, the European Commission publishes the communication on Europe number one tourism destination, and Nextur is highlighted within this communication as a strategic partner with whom implement their initiatives. So why we are a network of regions? As you know, regions, they have a crucial role when designing, when implementing, and also when funding sustainable tourism policies. But they have also a very strategic position, since they are able to gather the different local stakeholders of tourism. They are also able to make bridges between local stakeholders, regional stakeholders, national and supranational stakeholders. They can also stimulate the creation of public and private partnerships. Also, and very important, as you have been doing within Certess, is to international benchmark and cooperate. And a very important one is they are able to manage the European structural funds. It's not moving. Okay, so here you have a picture of who are the full members of Nextur, who are the regions. In red, you have the founding members of Nextur, the regions that initiated, Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur in France, Tuscany in Italy, and Catalonia in Spain. And in bold blue, there are the members of Nextur that are also partners of Certess. So there is Islas Baleares, Andalusia, and Slin region. Here, the associated members of Nextur, you can see there are representatives of the tourism enterprise, also representatives of Sustainable Tourism Association. So there is the European Institute of Cultural Roots, which is also a member of Nextur. And then you have the universities and research centers. Before Malta they mentioned that they were working in partnership with the University of Malta, which is also a member of Nextur. Well, this is the governance. I will skip it since we are running a bit late. Then the Nextur activities. So what do? Mainly we have 5 lines of activities. One would be to increase knowledge. So we work everything related with good practices, collecting, exchanging, monitoring good practices related to different challenges of sustainable tourism or different subjects that our regions consider relevant for them. So we can be doing gathering good practices, for instance, on overcoming seasonality or on how to integrate accessibility within the whole tourism value chain, for instance. With these good practices, normally what we do is gather them in catalogs, include them also in Nextur Good Practice database, and we, of course, disseminate them when we attend to events. Another important activity is to participate to projects, so everything that is related to the project engineering, to search of partners, building consortiums, sharing project ideas, etc. Also, we work on cooperation, of course, since we are a network. We have two different kinds of cooperation. One is internal cooperation, so it is done within the members of Nextdoor. This kind of cooperation is done through these task forces that you can see here below in your right. The task forces, they are thematic working groups, let's say, that our members have identified as very relevant for the tourism regional policies or regional plans, and that go very much in hand with the European Commission policies. So, for instance, or strategies. For instance, we have the task force on indicators that goes very much in hand with the initiative of the European Commission on European Sustainable Indicator System. Then there is the Blue Growth Task Force, also very much related with the Blue Growth Strategy of the European Commission. Then there is another one about landscape that now it's moving towards climate change and tourism. The aim here is to analyze which are the social, economic and environmental impacts of climate change within our tourism destinations. Then we have another one on culture and governance of cultural routes that I will explain you in a while, and about accessible tourism that goes very much in hand with the Tourism for All initiative of the European Commission. Then we do cooperation also with external partners, external stakeholders, as for instance ISTO or the network ERIN, etc. In terms of visibility, we enhance the visibility of Nextdoor members, so their strategies, their policies, their events on sustainable and competitive tourism. And we also ensure the position of the regions towards the European Commission. How we do this? So we participate to public consultations. We also developed a lot of position papers. And we have also participated to several events, so here of the European Commission. The idea here is to transmit the reflections of our regions towards the European institutions. And we work also with the thematic priorities of the Agenda 2007 that is established in the agenda of the European Commission. So since we are in the Certess final conference, just a general overview on our task force on governance of cultural routes, which was initiated by the European Institute of Cultural Routes and also by some Nextdoor regions, with the idea to enhance the role of the cultural routes within the European territory, also to enhance its positive impacts by focusing on the governance aspect, which is very challenging, as you all know. So we have been working through different activities, good practice catalog, analyzing indicators, funding opportunities, etc. And we have participated to several projects, as well as in Certess, where we're participating within the tutorial session. I think it was in Luxembourg in last January. So we have a cooperation agreement with the Council of Europe also for this purpose. So for this year, 2014, what we have been doing with this task force is to try to integrate it within other Nextdoor activities due to its transversality. Also, therefore integrated in, for instance, the activities related to ICT, accessibility, and tourism and climate change. So just to mention that we will participate to the European Tourism Forum that, as you know, will take place next week in Naples. For this purpose, we are doing a good practice catalog that will cover the 4 topics that will be discussed during the forum. One of them is synergies between culture and tourism for the economic growth and job development. And job creation. The other one is about skills and education in tourism. The other one is about mobility, sustainable mobility and accessibility of destinations. And there is another one that I don't remember. So I invite you to take a look to the website of the European Tourism Forum. So So besides working in these thematic priorities, we have been also working a lot with the EU funding opportunities for tourism, because it is a subject, of course, that concerns a lot our members. Therefore, we have been working in two sides. One is raising awareness, and the other one is using the funding opportunities, so participating to projects. For this purpose, we created this TSEO program, which aim is to provide Nextur members with an overview on the EU opportunities for financing regional initiatives that lead towards competitive and sustainable tourism. How we have done that? So in 2013, we did what we call the TSEO peer review cycle. So the idea here was to analyze 3 structural funds. We analyzed the European Agricultural Rural Development Fund, the European Regional Development Fund, and the European Social Fund. And we analyze how these regions have been using these funds for financing tourism. Now this year, in 2014, we have continued with this perspective, but we have gone more in deep, trying to integrate this more innovative approach, because as you know, tourism is not considered a priority within the European strategy, but it can be used, of course, to reach some of its objectives. So for doing so, we need to be innovative, of course, and for this purpose, we undertook the Nextur General Assembly in Catalonia about innovative tourism for growth and jobs. We had 2 sessions, one for more devoted to policy. So it was about the smart specialization strategy of the regions and how they have integrated tourism. And the other one was more focuses for enterprises, and it was about social innovation in tourism business models. So the outcomes of this cooperation is that they are really very successful. So we have been able to gather different stakeholders around these subjects and raising awareness not only among Nextur members but other stakeholders. And we have had very enriching collective learning, brainstorming, etc. So we have participated also in projects. As I mentioned, we work in order to keep our members informed on the opportunities they have for financing their tourism initiatives. So here you can have a look. I have been already mentioning them. And here is the Nextur role in some of the selected projects. So Nextur, when participates in projects, normally what it does, the role of Nextur is to coordinate members within the project and also outside, to share expertise, but also to develop expertise and knowledge, everything related to networks and synergies with other networks, events development and organization, and of course communication and dissemination, and ensuring the sustainability of the project outcomes. I'm going to skip this. This is just, it was to show you where Nextur has been participating in the different projects. So just to show you, we had tackled different areas in order to reach some of the goals of Nextur. So we have been working with a lifelong learning program, with the old COSME, which was the Competitiveness and Innovation Program. I think both projects are mentioned in your publication that you have done for Certess. And nowadays we are working with this project. So it's the Nearly Zero Energy Hotel project, Mitomed. It's a MED program, and we have won the first tender of Nextur, which is about mapping and performance check of the supply side of tourism education and training. So just a general overview on the EU funding opportunities for tourism. So as mentioned, tourism is not a priority for the European 2020 strategies, but it has a budget line within the COSME program. So there are different calls for proposal that have been launched this year in 2014 and that normally will be also launched for the next year. The first one is about diversifying the Eurotourism offer. Second one about the European Destination of Excellence, EDEN. Both calls are already closed, but within this red box you have the two calls that are still open. One is about synergies between tourism, high-end and creative industries. This is a pilot action, and it focuses on the creative industries related to perfume and to chocolate. And then the other one is facilitating EU transnational tourism flows for seniors and young people in long and medium season. Here there are two separate budget lines. One is for senior, which is more devoted to the development of products. And the young one is also a pilot initiative, and it has a smaller budget and is more about platforms and creation of networks. And then at the end you see there was a preparatory action of the European Parliament which lasted 3 years and it arrives at its end now. We hope they will continue for next year. One is about cooperation projects to support transnational tourism based on European cultural and industrial heritage. So it is about physical, virtual or thematic cultural routes, cultural and industrial heritage routes. And the other one is about fostering accessible tourism, and this one is specific for capacity building schemes. Also, both of them, they were just closed yesterday, if I recall correctly. So, besides the COSME program that has a specific budget line, as mentioned, we need to be innovative if we want tourism to be financed through the European funds. But we can do so because tourism, as you know, is a transversal and cross-cutting sector, and it has a lot of potentialities to reach some of the Europe 2020 strategies. So here, as you see, you have the European structural funds. The two first, so the ERDF and the ESF, they are embedded within the 11 thematic objectives. Here you can see a description of which are the thematic objectives that tourism could be used to reach them. And then there is the European Agricultural Fund and the European Maritime Fund, they have their own specificities, but tourism can be also used for contributing in their priorities. Of course, there are the thematic programs. You have the Life Plus program, which has a focus on environment and climate action. Horizon 2020, focusing on research and innovation. Creative Europe program, focusing on culture and creative industries. And the Erasmus Plus, that has several key actions on learning, mobility, cooperation, and policy support. So all these actions that have been highlighted in blue, they can be reached by implementing strategies of tourism. So just for you to know, very important is that the European Commission just published, I think 2 weeks ago, the guide on EU funding for tourism sector for 2014-2020. So you have all this is very much explained in detail, and you can have this guide by going to the European Commission tourism website. Just to end, how can Nextur cooperate with Certess? So of course, as I've been mentioned, we can cooperate to ensure the sustainability of this project. So we can disseminate through the Nextur Good Practices database. We can also disseminate by liaising with Nextur task forces, for instance, the task force on governance and cultural routes. And also we can disseminate the results on the Nextur channels and events, so through the newsletter, Twitter, website, and internal newsletter. So just to mention the following events, on sustainable tourism. There is the European Tourism Forum that will take place next week in Naples, organized by the European Commission and the Italian presidency. Then you have the World Responsible Tourism Day, organized by the UN WTO in the framework of the WTM. Then there is the Euro meeting, organized by Nextur presidency in Tuscany. which is about sustainable tourism, challenges and opportunities in the next, in this financing period. And then it's almost confirmed that it would take place the 1st of December. There is the European Tourism Day. Here are some of the latest publications of the European Commission, which are also very relevant. I don't know if you knew that last year the European Commission did this public consultation on the European tourism of the future and on the regulatory framework of tourism. The results have been published, as well as international trends of tourism with a forecast of 2030. You can find everything in Nextdoor website, and I think the European Commission has been also published some of them, at least the guide. Here they are the 5 reasons to join us, so we will be very happy to invite you to join Nextdoor Network. Of course, together we move farther and we move forward, so the more we are, the more we can do. We also would like to invite you to participate and to this European tourism policy, also to be part of this dynamic and open network, to have direct access to expertise, and also to promote your region and your organization towards the European institutions. So thank you very much. Here you have my contact details in case you need any more information, and you can follow us also via Twitter and our website. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandra. And thank you for your cooperation in Certess project and the permanent cooperation also with the European Institute of Cultural Roots and with the Cultural Roots program. We will follow the cooperation, of course, in the activities of Nextdoor. And I just want to underline that the European Institute of Cultural Roots is associated member of Nextdoor from the beginning. So thank you very much. You can have more details on the website and by email to Sandra. Thank you very much. We still have 2 presentations, and I think a very interesting ones, because it is a little bit the same institutional approach and presentation about the possibilities of founding. I will introduce Johanna Ben from the Joint Technical Secretariat in Lille, and with this I want to take the opportunity to thank you for your permanent assistance during Certess project, because we had always questions and asking for details, asking for your assistance permanently. It was very valuable for us because it's not easy, it's a complex project. But thank you very much, and you have the floor. Do you have a presentation?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's okay. Okay. Okay, no, sorry. Okay, thank you very much. I think I have now the rather ungrateful task to be at the, I think I probably have minus 10 minutes now, because we reached almost the end of the project. But I'm very happy to be here. Usually we're the ones chasing after the project, the more boring administrative stuff with all the finance, the figures. So for us, it's always great to be at a final conference where we see the more practical achievements. So that's why I'm really happy to be here and to share that with you. So I will take you now a little bit through a cultural tour through Interreg 4C and Interreg Europe. I know you've been sitting all day through presentations, and if I could, I would make you walk or cycle through the presentation, but that's a little bit difficult with PowerPoint, so just bear with me for the last, we have 2 more presentations, but I will try my very best to not be too long. Yes. All right, I think most of you actually know the program very well, so I will not spend too much time on that, but still the program is financing, a lot of projects. One of them is Certess, and so we're all working on the sharing of good practices across Europe, so really that if you have identified something in your region, that you can share that with other regions in Europe. And this happens in 2 fields, in innovation and in knowledge economy, and environment and risk prevention. And as you know, well, we're working really with the whole of Europe. That means the EU27 plus Switzerland and Norway. And we've seen a few representatives from so many countries this afternoon. Right, so we do have quite a lot of projects. Next to Certess, there's another 203 projects, so it's really quite a lot on cooperating on so many different things. That makes more than 2,000 partners. Again, it's quite a lot. And 90% of the NUTS 2 regions are covered. So from whatever region you come from in Europe, there's a big chance that your region is actually involved in the Interact4C project. So here we start with some boring numbers, but I hope they're not too boring. So we're, as I said before, we're all working on good practices, so that you have here. The statistics are from June 2013 because it always takes a while until your statistics, what you have reached, kind of reaches us. So that will further increase during the course of this year. That's more than 4,000 good practices identified, which is a lot. And I think Certess has contributed, I think, with around 40 to that, which is, I think, not yet included there. Then you look on the right side, and that means 403 practices successfully transferred. Now, you might look at it and say, 10%, that's not really a good achievement. But then if all of you who are really involved in interregional projects know how difficult it is to actually transfer good practice, because they're all so unique in their own sense, and you cannot just take, let's say, the Odysseia tour or an example from Finland and just put this into Romania. It takes a lot of time. You have to analyze the local context, and sometimes there might just be one part that you can transfer, but it's often the learning process that's so important to maybe not make the same mistakes. You see what went wrong, what didn't go so well, and what went well, and this exchange process, that's what it's all about in the end. So yeah, the other things, of course, is the policies addressed and policies improved, and there is, well, much more to say about that, but I won't stop there. So after the numbers, a bit more, colorful pictures, because it's very good to see what all the individual projects are working on. But of course, when you have so many, then sometimes it's a bit difficult to make like bigger sense of that, because what you find cooperating with each other, you learn from each other, but sometimes you have to find even like a higher level on that. So what we've done basically in the program is the capitalization exercise, so to find projects that kind of work on the same topic, to bring them together and really have bigger policy recommendations. Now, Certess is not part of any of the capitalization slots, but still, I think because it's, as we heard before, tourism or cultural routes are very cross-cutting in themselves, so they have to involve, for example, the SMEs or even innovative practices. So I think even for you in that sense, there's a lot to be found, so I can really advise you just to go on the website. There's just a new set of publications that's come out now, and I'm sure you find something, because it's really, it's not just to launch into a new project, but also see what other projects have done. I think like 2 weeks ago, I went to a conference on local food, and the second project was IFA food. And actually one of the good practices, Karelia la Carte, was both part of that project, and I've seen it in the list of your parts. So there's a lot of crossover, and I think for you it's also quite important to see what is there, what can we do in terms of cross-innovation, what can we take from there, the involvement of SMEs. So that's something where you would maybe look a bit further beyond the immediate cultural route. So just to say a few words on Certess from our perspective as Secretariat. So we have quite a diverse partnership. We've seen that earlier. Many different countries involved, with quite a good number of good practice already identified. And I think the toolkit that was mentioned earlier is a very, very interesting tool, and also the database to have something that exists beyond the project, really. And a very, I think, methodological approach with a lot of work on, which I think quite important to work on one hand, not only on good practices, but also the government's instruments, because especially for your topic, that seemed to be very, very relevant and very important. And then the combination of different tools really to go on site, to have tutoring, I think that worked extremely well. All right, so after that we will look into the future. don't focus too much on the dark clouds. I hope we'll enter in a brighter future. So yes, where are we going? Okay, two of the main important features is like concentration of resources and result orientation. A couple of weeks ago, there was quite a lot of talk on social media from a statistic from the European Commission on 1 million Erasmus babies. Of course, that's quite a tangible result out of a program. I think Erasmus since '87 and 1 million babies, that's quite tangible. Now, unfortunately, we don't really count the babies that have come out of our program. Maybe there are a few, I don't know. We have a bit more, let's say, more boring indicators like good practices, but still they're, of course, very important. But so the future will be even more about result orientation. And particularly the link to EU cohesion policy, which is already there now, but this has to be even more enforced. That's a very boring regulation speak there, identification and dissemination of good practices with a view to its transfer principally to operational programs under the Investment for Growth and Jobs goal, but also very relevant to programs under the European Territorial Cooperation goal. So I hope you understand what you have to do in the future. But in the future, that means also we cannot finance all kinds of initiatives. We don't have that many resources. So basically, the member states of our program have decided to focus to work on those four themes, and that's research and innovation, SME competitiveness, low carbon economy, and the environment and resource efficiency. But I think what we just heard in Sandra's previous presentation, those actually are aspects that you can work on as well. And what I mentioned, that if you look at cultural roots, it is important how you involve the local SMEs, how you work together with local food producers, with the hotels, etc. So in that area, I think there's potential. Also research and innovation, I just think about the Austrian example that we saw. And what has become more and more important, sustainable tourism. So we look at resource efficiency and the environment, and maybe even low carbon economy, low carbon travel, for example. All right, I said we don't have that much money, but that's basically what we're looking at, EU cohesion policy. The idea in the regulation is that our small program there, and that's the little yellow square there, Interreg Europe, which is part of the European Territorial Cooperation goal, the little green square. But our small program is supposed to have an impact on the big yellow squares. Now you see 340 billion euro, and then our program is 359. That's how it has to work in theory. So it's by you going to each other in the regions to really find effective good practices, take them to your managing authorities, and then make this big chunk of money work in a more efficient way. So what will change a little bit in the future is also the actions that we will support. On one hand, we have interregional cooperation projects and learning platforms. Cooperation project, that will be pretty much what you know already so far. Projects like Certess, so it's a EU exchange on good practices. You learn from each other. One big new thing there is that we will have 2 phases in the future. So that will be 1 to 3 years for the policy exchange, so basically what you did already now. But then, as I said earlier, results, the babies, we need to look what comes after. And that's often what we found with our projects. You have the cooperation over 3 years, but what's really happening, like in the regional implementation plan, that's only happening after the project has already ended. But that's usually where it becomes even more interesting, because then you see the results of your cooperation. So this is basically what we will do in the future. We will add this extra phase 2, which will last 2 years. And that will basically be dedicated to the monitoring of the action plans, regional implementation plans, call it how you want it. And also an important aspect is that now we will impose from the very beginning that you work with local stakeholder groups. I think not a problem for projects like Certess, because I think you have shown very actively that you involve your local stakeholders. But in the future, we really want to make this compulsory for all projects, because we've seen that it's a very valuable tool. In terms of eligible area, not many changes. We got Croatia now, so that means 30 countries in total. A small new change there is in terms of eligible bodies. So far we had only bodies, public bodies and bodies governed by public law. But there was kind of a demand also to involve more the private sector. So in the future, we will also allow private non-profit bodies into the program. The only difference there will really be in terms of co-financing rates. A bit more easier, everybody gets 85% in the future, so no matter where you come from, except the private bodies, they get 75. But I think compared to other programs, that's really quite a good rate. It's a very high co-financing rate. All right, so I said we have two actions, so the projects, and the second are the platforms. Now platforms have become a little bit of a buzzword, or not, well, I don't know how to call it, but it's really been all European policies couldn't have now a platform. Let's see how it works. But I think it is very important that you have something more stable, a stable cooperation tool, because as I said before, it's nice how projects cooperate, but sometimes you need to keep more of a stable background. So that's precisely what the platforms are for. We will have exactly 4 platforms for each of the themes. They will work like an online collaborative tool, so really that you have a website where you can go to, and will be animated by an expert team. And the idea is really that also for regions who are, for example, not part of a project, because we know it is very difficult. I mean, administratively, we know it's quite heavy to run a project, and sometimes you might just want to know one particular part when you're developing your regional operational program or something, and then it's basically when you would turn to the platform and get some information on that, and where all the projects that are running also feed in their information. So that's really like a kind of cooperation between projects and platform. So really just at the end, the summary of the new features of the new programming period. There will be increased focus on structural funds. That's very important. In the future, you have to be in your partnerships, even a bigger involvement of managing authorities. That's really a key part. And then what I mentioned earlier, the 2 phases implementation is a big change, the involvement of local stakeholder groups and the contribution to thematic platforms. Okay, so that's just really how this is supposed to look like, the cooperation projects together with the platforms. All right. In terms of timing, where are we now? You're probably already thinking about new ventures, where you want to head next. So we're right now, well, the program is basically ready. It's not yet submitted to the Commission, but nonetheless, Rina mentioned it earlier, we will have the launch event of the new program in December in Bologna. And then sometime between now, we hope for it every day, we're just waiting for the final agreement of the last member state to the program. So hopefully sometimes within the next few weeks we will submit to the program to the Commission, and then sometime in 2015 it will be approved. So we're counting at the moment to open the first call for proposals in April, running from April till September, but those dates are of course provisionally, just for you to kind of keep you thinking where you would be looking at in setting up new partnerships if you want to. So yeah, this is really just an invitation to our launch event in Bologna, the Italian presidency, so of course we are in Italy. So I think it's worse places to go in December than Bologna. So please come in, and it's on the 2nd and 3rd of December, and actually registration it's getting quite busy, so I think we have already like 500 registration, so you need to be quick. And then the usual, if you need more information, there it is, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. And with this, I hope like at some point you can finish the overall event today. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Johanna, for this dynamic presentation. And it was quick but very alive, so there's a lot of information, but anyway, we have the presentation. We will put it also, if we can, on the website of the project. And I hope we can we can use all this information for future cooperation, and to have also an overview about the timing, because it's always running very fast, and we have to pay attention to this. So thank you again for coming. Thank you for your assistance again for Certess project. And we will finish with a presentation with an overview of other possibilities of financing from the European Commission on culture, and I will give the floor to Marion Schimmer, who is the contact point for the European Commission in Luxembourg, Relais Culture Europe. No? Oh, maybe I'm wrong. So, okay, you will say it. You was, I don't know. So she will tell you. And it is really to give you the image about the possibilities of future cooperation on the culture field. And well, you have the floor. And if you have questions after, we have 10 minutes for the questions. And you are all invited after in the European Institute of Culture routes to taste some local products of one of the routes, a new one, the transhumance route. So our partner from Sibiu, from Romania, invite you in the institute to taste some products of the transhumance routes. So you have the floor, Marianne. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Serena. For those who don't know me, I'm the Creative Europe desk for Luxembourg. You know that all programs have national contact points, and Creative Europe is a new program for culture and media, and that's why I'm here. We have a mission of course, we are contact point for Creative Europe, but also we have a mission to inform on all the other EU schemes or any scheme important for culture, creativity in the industry, creative industries, etc. So I have been working with Serena and the Institute for quite a long time. I'm quite impressed by all the work done by Certess. Yes, the new schemes for funding schemes for the next period. I will give you just a very brief overview first, because we are all almost dead. But it's interesting also to have a global overview and a global picture where we can really look for funding. I suppose that you know about Europe 2020 strategy. I don't know, maybe you have heard about this a lot of times. So remember, all the programs will just refer to these 5 objectives, like employment, research development, climate change. Sandra has mentioned also climate change in one of the task groups, as far as I've seen. Education, of course, and poverty and inclusion. So, very fresh news, or maybe not so fresh. We have a communication on heritage. So it's towards an integrated approach to cultural heritage. It's nothing new on the contents. It things you already have been thinking and implementing all these last years. Is really that heritage is about environment, research, training, citizenship, SMEs, audience development, intercultural dialogue, and I think all the cultural itineraries have been really practicing this very much, this integrated approach. So it's nothing new, but it's important. The Commission is giving a political sign that heritage is a real, not only a factor, but also a tool. Is benefiting from EU, but EU is really benefiting from heritage, and that's the message. So you will find heritage either as proper actions or pilot projects, as Sandra has mentioned before, or you can, or heritage can also be a factor of development, even if it is not addressed as such, but in competitiveness, for example. Or so that's very good news. You will find culture, heritage, but also cultural tourism, identity, dialogue, citizenship, well-being, health, education, employment, integration, innovation, tourism, and last but not least, peace and security. I know that the Institute has steered a project on Baroque for peacekeeping in the Balkan, as far as I remember. So, I mean, heritage can also be a peace-building tool. And there are programs for peace building as you know, in some neighboring countries of the EU, it's we have hot spots. So maybe heritage can be peace building in next years. And of course, I will go very quickly through the programs. It just my objective is just that you keep in mind that cultural itineraries or cultural routes or cultural tourism is about culture, is about creative industries, etc. So keep it in mind. I will not go too much into details, but really keep it in mind. My objective is that you have a global overview. So Creative Europe, that's my program. You can work on more research themes. For example, there is a research program of Universidad Politécnica de Valencia on EU carnival rituals. It's really investigating more content or more focusing on audiences and how to bring audiences to some special heritage, let's say, is European cemeteries. But I know that the tourists have been addressing cemeteries, European cemeteries. So this program is also helping you work with audiences. Sandra mentioned Erasmus Plus, and Penelope, you mentioned that you're setting up a joint master degree, as far as understood, in Erasmus. Yeah, and in the longer term. But yes, Erasmus is the new framework program for education, vocational training, youth, sports. So if you want to work on vocational training, you can do it in Erasmus. For example, this is an example of France. A cooperative for heritage skills, this strategic partnerships. But you can also have a very small project in Erasmus Plus, like hosting a trainee or a student. Or you can send out also, other universities can send out, not only for Erasmus to study, but also to do a traineeship. And we have had a very good experience in Luxembourg, but certainly in other countries, hosting Erasmus students. They can do a historical research work, or they are students of cultural management or whatever. And we have really very good experience just hosting these students for 6 months, 7 months, or up to 12 months. So this is a small thing, which is suitable also for small organizations and very helpful. And very often this European fresh side, fresh wind is really good for projects as well. So it's manageable. Higher education, as Penelope mentioned before, you can work on an internship, but also I'm not going into the master degrees because this is not. But still, in higher education, you can work in higher education. And Erasmus is also about youth. You know that we had a program before, Youth in Action, so it was merged with Erasmus. And most of the projects in youth program are cultural projects, really. Maybe not. You can organize projects in the youth program, even as a small collectivité territoriale. Small, for example, a commune can also organize youth exchange or training or whatever. If they are into youth, you can, for example, you can have a youth exchange. I'm thinking about heritage camps, these kind of things. Ça n'avance pas. Je sais pas. Sorry, we have a technical problem. Okay. And then there is a small program which is really, really very nice. I'm thinking of some of you, like Antoinette, who is responsible for the migration. Not anymore. Okay. But Europe for Citizens. In Europe for Citizens, this is about the process of European construction. The citizenship, it's not only just understanding EU institutions, of course, it's about that too, but it's more about participation. So you can work on common values, so there is an action on remembrance. So those of you who work, for example, Second World War, and maybe in Spain on the civil war and the Frankist area, or in ex-communist countries on the communist times, those working on mémoire vivante, on living memory, for example, can do it also on cultural roots, if that's one of your teams. And you can also organize something with your citizens really around this European construction process. This doesn't mean that you have to organize conferences on what is the parliament, etc. You can organize, for example, a project on agriculture or on tourism or whatever, and the objective is participation of the citizens so that they understand also EU policies and why, but actively understand. It's really active participation. It's a very nice program. It's very easy. It's with flat rates, so if you, in your communes or in your stakeholders, for example, NGOs can take up this action. It's a very nice program. And of course, LEADER, do I have to remind you of LEADER program for rural development? So it's also my favorite program is LEADER because it's very participative, and Joanna was talking about stakeholders. LEADER is really a method. It's not only a program, and the method is really local participation with citizens and local authorities. So you can work really on really micro level, on regional level, or transnational, and good practices exchange is also something which is very much practiced in LEADER. For example, on produits du terroir, on traditional handicrafts, or produits du terroir, how you say in English? Local food, yes, for example, or local tourism, sustainable tourism products. These are themes which are already been addressed in the LEADER transnational networks. So, okay, Interact we have seen. We're going to go into Interact. Alive. Alive is the program for environment, and I think Sandra mentioned it in her presentation. So those of you, for example, who work on landscapes, and I'm thinking, for example, about agro-pastoral landscapes, which are very fragile environments, and how to integrate environmental issues, management, good practices into the management of landscapes. Okay, that's a program for you. Just an example. So you will find this low carbon economy, etc., in all the programs. So it's also how, for example, if you're restorating infrastructure, how to integrate energy efficient techniques, for example. Just so there are many ways to integrate to address. Yes, we come more to more economic programs. COSME, which is a program for SMEs. COSME is supporting systems to support SMEs. It's not a program directly meant for SMEs, but if you really want to strengthen information or coaching or clusters or whatever for SMEs, then, but it's really not for SMEs directly. It's really for intermediate bodies. And then, of course, the call Joanna mentioned, not Joanna, Sandra mentioned, which was really specific for cultural itineraries. I will not go into that. I don't know if it is going to continue, but and then, yeah, cultural tourism or heritage is also about research and development. It has been mentioned before. Heritage has really a specific place in Horizon 2020, and it's more about creative industries. It's really about these interactive tools or ICT tools, for example. It's these programs are not going to fund your projects on the field. They're going to fund your initiatives at European level in the subsidiarity principle, how to find new ways, for example, with other stakeholders and European partners. It's really about innovation. No? I mean, if you have really local projects, you cannot just go to Europe and fund local projects. This is really to go towards innovative tools. But Horizon 2020 has really very specific and interesting opportunities. This is another action. So ecosystems for digital cultural assets, a special call. So support and promote access and reuse of cultural heritage resources. So those of you, and I have seen the region Lazio, as far as I remember, and Andalusia, yes, you develop also technological tools, as far as I remember, huh? Yes. From your presentation.
Especially focused on the Odyssey program.
On the what? Sorry?
Odyssey.
Yes.
It's a model of applying new technologies
yes.
to tourism information in involving the small and medium enterprises.
Yes, in Horizon 2020, for example, this is a really very open program, and there is a trend towards having in the research programs. You always had the project always had to had a complementary partnership like SMEs, universities, private prestataires de service. And now it's even going more towards co-creation methodologies. So this could be a tool to develop really a very interesting cultural tourism tool, technological tool, I mean. So it's also working about audiences. Yes, and to finish my own program, Creative Europe. Maybe, I don't know who knows about Creative Europe. So before we had the media program, which all of you know, of course, if you go to cinema, and the culture program. Now our programs have been merged. And like in all the other programs, or almost all the other programs, you will find we have a cultural objective, linguistic and cultural diversity, which is really kept, but we all have also economic objectives as well, contrary to the last period. So competitiveness is keyword. And we're focusing on capacity building to strengthen the cultural and creative sector. This program is the result of years and years of studying and impact studies, which said that cultural and creative sector are scattered, they are fragilized, they have potential, but they cannot realize their potential because they are fragmented. They have no access to funding, etc. So this is the result to strengthen the sector. So, for example, those of you who work on new business models, if you work with the private sector in your cultural roots, you have to work with enterprises, the hotels, I don't know, all the stakeholders, how to mix, for example, more citizenship or more commercial objectives. How do you do it? I don't know. We have a big discussion sometimes in Luxembourg because tourism is also about citizenship. It's not only commercial. So you need new business models, how to deal with it, and with shrinking budgets, etc. And of course, audience development. Yeah. So I'm going just to focus on the one strand or action which is really interesting for you. Networks, European platforms, and translation. Maybe it's not really that interesting, but very concretely, cooperation projects. We used to have them in the past. I mean, they were successful, so we kept cooperation projects, but they have been flexibilized. Instead of 2 years, we have now 4 years. And you can start with a small or a larger scale project, so 3 countries or 6 countries. So I will not go into, I mean, if you really need some information, we will send it. But it's quite simple. And you can really think about I would say that Creative Europe is a program which will help you to facilitate or maybe integrate all the other dimensions like environment, economy, but focusing really on a cultural objective. Like, yes, so this is, so we'll skip that. We'll skip that too. Remember, it's you have when you're interested by a program, you really have to look at eligibility criteria, and one is, of course, countries participating. And I know that the cultural itineraries, they also work in the Caucasus region, and you also go towards the Mediterranean. So Mediterraneans, that there is, it's new in the programs that there is this international cooperation with the neighbors. Yes, the problem is our main, I mean, many Luxembourg organizations have a good partnership relationship with Switzerland for some historical reasons, but now they're suspended, but they still can participate, but not funded. So yes, next October, so you have 1 year to prepare. And yeah, so in every country I have colleagues like me, Creative Europe desks, so they're really at your disposal. Most of them also offer training or other support measures depending on the country. In Luxembourg, I'm focusing on, not really focusing on, I try to have an overview of all the schemes, and then what I do is lots of methodological support. But yeah. That's and I really have to finish, because in our contract we have to say that the Commission is not responsible for what we say, and I'm not a representative of the Commission, but the Commission is supporting financially our service, as well as the Minister of Culture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marianne Schimmer. And I think how we said in French, la boucle est bouclée, because I want to thank you really because, well, maybe some of you know that the Certess project started with Marianne Schimmer because I was for a presentation of this kind of presentation, and speaking after the presentation, she said, but you think to do something on Interreg project? And I said, well, we are not really a region. And they said, yeah, but Luxembourg is a region, and the Ministry of Culture is the government. So slowly we had a lot of meetings, and finally we thought that could be an opportunity to try it. So we started like this, and here we are, 4 years after, because it was also the preparatory period, which was quite long and quite heavy. So I want to thank you very, very much to all the partners. Thank you for your attention and your patience. I want to thank you very much also to Raluca Tarzan, who assists me very heavily all the time on this project, because it was a lot of details, a lot of deadlines, as I said, a lot of documents to prepare. I want to thank also the first level controllers from Luxembourg, because they were, and they still, and they will have, I hope, the patience to control our final report, because, well, the project is almost over, but we still have the final report isn't Johanna, and Johanna, she's waiting still. I'm sure that she's waiting already the report. So we are now working on part5, and we will finish the project with the final report. So thank you very much. I want to say thank you to Penelope Denu to support the program, the project, and to disseminate it and to integrate it on all the culture routes of the Council of Europe, because I think that this putting together all this, we will have a real network covering Europe, and not only European Union, because I think for the Council of Europe, this is also important to take this over and to integrate also other countries which are member states of the Council of Europe, but not of the European Union, but also the member states of the partial agreement. And thank you very much for the assistance of the technical, you don't see him, but Guy is there still, and he was really brave to assist us for this broadcast and for the all the technical aspects. So thank you very much to Guy and to Neumünster for all this assistance. Thank you very much. We are waiting for you. We are not going to the institute to test these products from Sibiu region, and thank you very much. I hope we will cooperate again. We will have a new partnership, or we continue on other projects. So thank you again, and well, it was a pleasure to work with you. Thank you.